Sherlock Holmes is one of the most recognizable literary figures of the past 20th and 21st centuries. The image of the detective with the deerstalker hat, pipe, and overcoat has been an enduring image in pop culture. Indeed, there have been several cinematic and televised representations of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's heroic detective over the years. From the early silent works featuring such actors as William Gillette and Bronco Billy Anderson to the most widely recognized portrayal from actor Basil Rathbone, all the way to the upcoming television series Young Sherlock, featuring actor Hero Fiennes Tiffin, it seems as if Holmes will always be on the case. However, one of the best representations of Doyle's sly detective is all but forgotten, and undeservedly so. It was a major stepping stone for future iterations of the legendary detective of 221B Baker Street. Today, we need to talk about Ronald Howard's Sherlock Holmes. Sherlock Holmes, otherwise known as The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, is an American television series produced by Sheldon Reynolds for the 1954 to 1955 television season. Reynolds had previously produced the series Foreign Intrigue, which was later turned into a feature film with Robert Mitchum. Reynolds sought to distance his new series as much as possible from comparisons to the definitive portrayals of Holmes and Watson, those being the performances of Basil Rathbone and Nigel Bruce, in a series of 14 films produced by Universal Pictures between 1939 and 1946. Reynolds rejected Rathbone's interpretation and decided to have his Holmes more accurately resemble the detective of the first Doyle novel, The Study in Scarlet, a young and eager man who was brilliant and scholarly while also exhibiting normal human flaws. Reynolds said of his Holmes that, quote, "I was suddenly struck by the difference between the character in that book and that of the stage and screen. Here, Holmes was a young man in his 30s, human, gifted, and of a philosophic and scholastic bent, but subject to fateful mistakes which stemmed from his overeagerness and lack of experience." In early stories like that one, Conan Doyle had not yet grown tired of the character, who later became a literary monster. For him, and as literature, the early stories are far better. But practically every stage and screen presentation of the detective is based on the latter stories. Casting for the series, produced in France by Guild Films, consisted of the heroic Holmes being portrayed by British actor Ronald Howard, son of legendary Gone with the Wind actor Leslie Howard. Howard's portrayal of Holmes proved to be far less rigid than that of Rathbone. Howard said of his portrayal, quote, "In my interpretation, Holmes is not an infallible, eagle-eyed, out-of-the-ordinary personality, but an exceptionally sincere young man trying to get ahead in his profession. Where Basil Rathbone's Holmes was nervous and highly strung, mine has a more ascetic quality, is deliberate, very definitely unbohemian, and is underplayed for reality," end of quote. Howard initially had reservations of filming the series in France and of his ability to portray such an iconic character, but Reynolds convinced the 36-year-old actor to make the pilgrimage to France. This move proved daunting for Howard, who not only transitioned himself to this new world, but his family as well. The work on the series was equally challenging, with Howard, along with actor H. Marion Crawford and Archie Duncan, filming a new episode every 4 days. Crawford portrayed Dr. Watson in this new series, a role he enthusiastically leapt at. Crawford made an effort to differentiate his portrayal from that of Nigel Bruce, saying of his interpretation, quote, "I never thought of Watson as the perennial brainless bungler who provided burlesque relief in the earlier portrayals. He is a normal man, solid on his feet, a medical student who gives valuable advice. In other words, he is the perfect foil to Holmes' youthful buoyancy." Once settled in France, the production of the series went without major challenge aside from the grueling shooting schedule. Howard recalled that the filming was mostly agreeable, not having to awaken at ghastly hours in the morning to shoot. Howard also lived near the Epony Studios, and filming tended to finish at 7:30 each night. This allowed Howard extended rest between shooting days, with the only inconvenience being the send-off of his children to school each day. The filming was as relaxed an experience, which Howard had never had before or since. During the filming of the series, Crawford and Duncan, who portrayed bumbling Inspector Lestrade, were asked to portray other characters in addition to their main roles. The stories were mostly original adventures, written exclusively for television, with Doyle's original text serving as influential to some, while others were outright remakes of Doyle's novels, condensed to just 30 minutes in length. The supporting and guest casts also included such famous faces as Natalie Schafer, the future Mrs. Howell on Gilligan's Island, to Hollywood legend Paulette Goddard. The series was not only well received by critics, with trade magazine Variety exclaiming the program was, quote, a winner that avoids the customary cliches that seem inevitable in any treatment of the Conan Doyle stories, end of quote, but was also cheered by the Holmesian Society, the Baker Street Irregulars. The series of 39 episodes was transmitted to American television screens between October of 1954 to October of 1955. For reasons unknown, the highly successful series, which was slated to produce 39 more episodes in June of 1955, was not renewed, causing the program's paltry 39-episode run to cycle through first-run syndication for decades after. The show eventually ended up in the public domain, which meant that anyone could release the episodes in any format they wished. There have been countless home video editions of the series, ranging from poor releases, from dollar DVD labeled Digiview, which replaced Paul Duran's original opening theme, to an overabundance of releases of all 39 episodes by a multitude of companies, including Madison and Mill Creek Entertainment, which feature introductions by the late Sir Christopher Lee, who portrayed Holmes in a few films, taken from the 1985 documentary The Many Faces of Sherlock Holmes. None of these releases are digitally restored and most likely derived from 16mm television prints of varying quality. I love this version of Holmes, especially considering it was my first major introduction to Doyle's legendary hero of London literature. It may be the furthest from definitive in the minds of those who only know of the Rathbone Bruce films, but in my opinion, Ronald Howard is my Sherlock Holmes. It was a brilliantly fresh adaptation of a character who had become the subject of stereotyping. Crawford also made for a fine Watson, and the two have a delightful chemistry together. It is a disgrace that this series, significant as being the first American television series based on Holmes, has not received a digital restoration or its flowers as being one of the finest adaptations of Doyle's works ever filmed. While the series only lasted 39 episodes, it still lingers in the minds of those who grew up with it in the 1950s, as well as those of us who discovered it in the DVD age. My name is Gino Cuddy, and I'll see you next time. And if you're feeling generous, feel free to donate to my PayPal link below to get more content like this. And remember to hit like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell.